Hi, my name is Jan Benham, founder of the Institute of Aromatherapy and Aroma Shop. Today I'm going to talk about organic chemistry. People get really confused with chemistry. People don't hate chemistry. They hate being confused, intimidated, and embarrassed by chemistry. Their problem is with how they are taught. So let's look at chemistry. What our aim is today is to be able to understand why essential oils have an effect upon the human body and why. So this is through chemistry. And when I started out working with essential oils, I got a lot of essential oil samples from companies all over the world wanting to sell me their essential oils. And often with their sample, they would send a gas chromatography profile, which would be a sheet, a little bit like this. Now I'm going to show you this on air right now so you can have a look. So what is this sheet? Well, it's basically a chemical constituent breakdown of that particular essential oils. Everything has a signature. So when there is a machine called a gas spectrum, that when you place something inside that machine, for example, a banana, it will come out, it will squiggle out these lines, basically stating what is the chemical breakdown of the banana. And then it will conclude that it's got the signature of a banana, just like a handprint basically. And then you can put in an orange or the orange peel and the same thing. So this is how they analyze the different chemical components that are in herbs and drugs and essential oils. Now this only tells you what chemicals are in the essential oil. If someone just decided to already add a little touch of linalool extra, a chemical, into that essential oil blend, it won't basically state that essential oil blend is pure or not, but it does state what exactly chemical-wise is in that particular essential oil. So what I wanted to show you today is how to read such a graph so that you can understand what it all means. So what we're mainly aiming is to get this graph into this, first of all. But first, let me introduce you to chemistry. So what is chemistry? Chemistry is the scientific study of the composition, structure, and properties of matter, and how matter changes under different conditions. Matter is defined as anything which has mass and takes up space. Matter exists in three forms: solids, liquids, and gases. There are a number of ways in which matter is described, and these include a composition of matter, which is concerned with what matter is made up of, the structure of matter, which is how it is made, and the properties of matter, which teaches us how to distinguish matter from other matter. So in aromatherapy, we are concerned with a specific branch of chemistry called organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is the study of all matter or substances which contain carbon. Some basic characteristics or properties of matter are, it is inflammable. It is soluble in alcohol, benzene and ether, but not soluble in water. Does it sound like an essential oil to you? And chemical reactions are slow to occur. So the structure of matter. So atoms are considered to be the basic building blocks of all matter. When two or more atoms combine, they form a molecule, and atoms consist of one or more protons, neutrons, and electrons. Each atom has to have a balanced number of protons and electrons, or the atom will be known as a free radical. Free radicals are unstable electrons and are considered to be destructive in nature as they disturb the molecular structure of human cells. Some examples of the free radicals are ultraviolet radiation, exhaust fumes, pollution and cigarette smoke. Free radicals are considered to be the leading cause of cancer, premature aging, and cellular breakdown. So, the types of matter. So we have elements, and let me go back up here. Elements, which are all matter in the universe is composed of a limited number of basic substances called elements, which cannot be broken down to simpler substances. So elements which are significant to the bodies of living organisms include hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus and sulfur. These elements occur in all living creatures and are indispensable to life on Earth. So the principal structural element of matter is carbon. There is no single carbon atom occurring in nature because carbon tends to bond with other carbon atoms. And then we go to compounds. This is when two or more elements combine chemically to create a compound. So the individual elements which make up this compound then lose their own properties, but they take on new properties of the compound. An example of this is when two atoms of hydrogen combine with one atom of oxygen, this forming water or H2O. So of particular importance to aromatherapy are the compounds containing carbon and hydrogen, as well as those containing carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. And of course other elements are involved, but these are secondary and will not be considered in this particular course. So we've got two categories that we study in here, and one is called hydrocarbons, which are basically contain carbon and carbon and hydrogen, and then we have oxygenated hydrocarbons, which are these compounds which contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so it's not you're not becoming a chemist. We're not taking you through a university course, so we don't have to understand every single thing. But as I said, what I want you to be able to understand is if I present you with an essential oil and present you with a graph like this, that you might have some idea, without knowing that essential oil, what that essential oil will do. You don't even have to know the name of the essential oil, just the chemical names, where it's from in the plant, and then you should be able to tell me, oh, this plant does X, Y, Z. So our principal thing is breaking down all these chemicals, lots of thousands of chemicals, but they can be broken down into principal chemicals groups. So we have aldehydes, ketones, esters, terpenes, alcohols, phenols, and oxides. There are lactones as well, but for now, just look at these and you need to learn the basic, what they do. So what is the principal thing that aldehydes do, or what terpenes do? So we're going to make them into, I'd say, people. So you can choose any element you want. This is important for learning, to choose something that will make you remember. So we're going to start with terpenes. So I'm going to show you a picture and have a take a look at what it is. So that's a picture of what I consider terpenes to be. So we have different types of terpenes, monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, and so on. And they're just hydrogen and carbon atoms in a chain. And you've got different levels. Now, terpenes have their own particular group. So what we've done is we made something into a graph. It's a gas chromatographic profile, and you can put some at the bottom and some at the top. The ones at the bottom are warming, strengthening, and tonifying and yang quality. The ones at the top are yin and cooling and calming, basically. So terpenes are a very safe group of chemicals, except carein, which sensitizes skin. So people with very sensitive skin may be irritated by terpenes, but it's not usual in most people. Often chemists will remove certain terpenes from essential oils, as in the point of bergamotine, which is taken out of bergamot in order to make bergamot the skin less sensitive to the sun, so you don't burn in the sun. Now, that is your choice. I personally prefer to buy bergamot that is complete, that comes as nature intended, because there's not just terpenes in bergamot, there are other chemicals in too, as you will see later on. So it's not just one thing. You can't just say bergamot is bergamotine. It's a complete set of many different chemicals that help sometimes quench the harmful effects from other chemicals, as we will see again later. So I prefer to work with the essential as nature intended. I don't like mucked around where they've been played around with, things taken out, things added, and so on and so forth. So the general therapeutic properties of terpenes are air antiseptic, antiviral, cleansing and strengthening to the immune system, which is why I had someone working out, like in the gym. They're gentle stimulant, they can be aggressive to the skin, they're useful for skin hygiene, so they're very cleansing, very tonifying, uplifting, yang quality. And sesquiterpenes, which are another branch of terpenes, have a similar property, but they tend to be more calming. So sesquiterpenes are anti-inflammatory. For example, azulene. Now, azulene is a chemical that's present in German chamomile. Azulene is blue in color, so German chamomile is blue, and it has a very calming effect upon the skin. So you can see that is where sometimes it's not always that they all irritate. It all depends on the type of chemical it is. Now, what you might notice is at the end of all terpenes, you have the letters ENE. So if you have any chemicals in your graph that has ENE at the end in this lot, then we can see that they are terpenes. It helps a lot with your with analyzing what it does. So now we come to oxygenated hydrocarbons, which are alcohols. So take a look at this picture. So that's my picture of alcohols. Now, when we're talking about a group of alcohols, we're not talking about drinking alcohol. We're talking about a group of chemicals that come under the name alcohols. Although she's pretty happy here, isn't she? It's basically, so it's the hydrogen atom and the oxygen have combined and bonded with a carbon atom. So they are an important part of the group, important group of chemicals, and they're very good for essentials in skincare. They're a very safe group of chemicals and have no irritating properties. So they are again in the bottom layer of this graph here. They are, the general thing is that they're stimulating, with the exception of linalool, which is a chemical that is found in some essential oils like basil linalool, thyme linalool, and in lavender. And it's more of a calming effect. But on the whole, alcohols are uplifting, they're immunostimulating, they're antiseptic, diuretic. They help, so they help remove excess water out of the system, and they're antibacterial. They're also detoxing, decongesting, and tonics. So quite a nice group of chemicals. And you'll notice at the end of them, although it's not always written in stone, but in alcohols you'll see OL at the end of each individual chemical. So now we're going to go on to the next group as I take a look at esters. So welcome to esters. I always call esters Auntie Esther. I always think of I chose a different picture today, but I always think of a cuddly, warm aunt who is beautiful and calming, very soothing, calming to the touch, very gentle. So esters are basically, now you see the chemicals are getting a little bit more complex. So you have one and then you add on an extra compound, then we're adding on here an acid. So we're adding on acetic acid, and that makes an ester. So I've got here a woman basically doing yoga, like a little Buddha, and esters are antifungal, they're sedatives, so they're in the top layer here. They're antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory, soothing to the skin, they balance the nervous system, and they are cell regenerating. So there's a very good group of essential oils that are high in esters are valuable to skincare and skin repair as well. You'll see also at the end they're free of toxicity and they're very gentle. So when we sometimes if we put something like terpenes on our skin, mix that's in an essential oil, say an essential is high in terpenes, and there's some essentials that have 95% terpenes in, and you add a little touch of ester to, you don't have the irritating action on the skin. The esters will quench that. So if you look at the word quench, you'll see we use the word quench a lot, quenching the bad effects or the side effects of the terpenes. So you can get the full effect of the terpenes, but without the irritating problem on the skin. Now, the thing you can see at the end of each individual chemicals is something called ATE. So you'll see something like lineal acetate, neryl acetate, and they are esters. And these are in the upper end of the structure here. So now we come to the next one. So this is aldehydes. So what does this picture tell you? It shows you a beautiful woman who's made up. She's probably wearing a heavy perfume, very little bit bitchy perhaps, but beautiful. So aldehydes, there are the most aromatic compounds within an essential oil. And they are, and again in the top layer here, they're anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, very good antiseptics, calming to the central nervous system, and a stimulant to the circulation as well. They're anti-infectious, so they're very useful in high flu, during the flu season, possibly corona season, and they have, of course, a strong aroma. The negative problems that they do have is they can be very irritating when applying to sensitive skin. For example, citral, which is a aldehyde that is in things like lemongrass, can be very irritating. So many times I have been decanting lemongrass into smaller bottles because I sell essential oils, and I've got a little bit under my skin and immediately it starts tingling and burning. As soon as I put a little drop of oil, not essential oil, but carrier oil onto my skin, it just dissolves it and it goes away. But so you have to be very careful when working with essential oils that are high in aldehydes. You know, cinnamon bark is high in aldehydes and it's very strong smell. So examples of those are, they usually have al at the end, but not all. But like vanillin, which is in vanilla, is an aldehyde. Let me see where the word vanilla comes from. But it doesn't have, it has an ion at the end. So this is where you kind of have to start learning what the back of each of those. There's not so many of these, so you can tell that that is, okay, that one is an aldehyde. So now we come to the next one. So welcome to ketones. They're fairly common in essential oils in low quantities, but some essential oils are high in ketones. So caution should be used with the following oils: fuja, pennyroyal, hyssop and sage. As ketones can be hazardous and can be neurotoxic if used in high doses over a long period of time. Now, it means that essential oils that are high in ketones should be used in low doses and for short-term use. And also they can provoke an epileptic attack for someone predisposed to them. I've never actually had that happen. I've had lots of people in my shop who are predisposed to epileptic shots, and I can assure you there's lots of ketones flowing in the air in my shop. But I still consider these valuable. It's valuable in healing. And I've got a lady knitting here deliberately because it knits the skin. It does a skin repair like scar tissue incredibly well. It also liquefies mucus and breaks down fat. So again, you can also thicken someone who is into a keto diet. So they're trying to put the body into a ketosis that helps the body remove excess fat out of the body, burns the fat. And so ketones are not a bad thing, it's just that you have to be careful of how you use them. So yes, I use sage often, I use hyssop often. They're incredibly great essential oils, so you don't need to be frightened of them. A lot of aromatherapists are. But in a massage blend, 1 or 2 drops is fine, or even more. You just don't want to use 20 drops in a massage blend. And as I said, in healing the skin, repairing the skin, getting rid of excess mucus, fantastic. So what do? They liquefy mucus. It's a sedative, temperature reducing, it's calming, antiviral, anti-infectious, anticoagulant, and of course it encourages tissue and cellular formulation and regeneration. And examples of ketones are, they usually have an ONE at the end of the chemical, with the exception of camphor, which is although camphor is also an essential, there is also a chemical that is within other essentials and it's got an OR at the end. So camphor, otherwise it's usually an ONE at the end of the chemical name. So again, just be careful, you don't take them over, you don't use them every day for the next year, you just use them whenever you need to. So now we come to the next one. So phenols. So phenol was the first common antiseptic, having been put to use by Lister in 1867. So the use of phenol was used as an antiseptic in surgery, and it helped reduce fatalities due to infection by a large margin. So phenol soon became the standard by which other antiseptics was measured. So, and that's why I've got a doctor here. So this is your doctor, I suppose, your big medicine of your chemicals. So very powerful antiseptic, analgesic, antibacterial, stimulant, strengthening and fortifying and warming. Now these also, like alcohols, they also have an OL at the end of the name, so it's sometimes easier to memorize these ones rather than all the alcohols, and then you can say, right, well, thymol is not an alcohol, it's a phenol. Now the thing to be important of safety data, anything high in phenols can be a skin irritant, can be considered carcinogenic in very high doses, but we're talking about the individuals. These are not individuals. You know, essentials are made up of hundreds of thousands of components. But I have bought myself individual chemicals because I'm interested, but that is, you know, it makes up a very small amount of the essential oil, so do not be one. But if you do know the essential oil is high in phenols, just use it as if you would use a base note. Now we come to the next one. So now we have oxides. So oxides are also known as 1.8 cineol and also known as eucalyptol. So there's actually only one oxide. And eucalyptol is found in a number of oils, and its major effect is due to its releasing of mucus. It's useful in coughs, colds, and any congestion in the respiratory tract. So eucalyptol is obviously in eucalyptus, and it makes up about 60% of the eucalyptus. And of course, eucalyptus comes from the leaves of the tree, which breathe. So it helps us with our own breathing. And so it basically breaks down mucus. It also expels mucus as well. Now this is very important. Eucalyptus globulus is quite an aggressive essential oil because of the 60% eucalyptol, and it also has some ketone in it too. So it can be very aggressive. So people who apply eucalyptol on their chest, mixed obviously in a cream or ointment, it will definitely make you cough. It will try to bring out the mucus, but sometimes it's not a good idea to be so aggressive. So it's sometimes better to temper it with other essentials, and this is where we start combining the different essential oils. So that's knowing your chemical properties. So, for example, if I've got somebody who's got bronchitis, I won't just give them eucalyptol or eucalyptus. I will often blend some sandalwood in, and sandalwood helps to calm coughs down, especially dry coughs. It also calms, it calms the person down, and it lessens the severity of the coughs. The mucus still comes out, still works, and I've often combined it with a touch of hyssop as well, because that's a ketone and that also liquefies mucus as well. So those three together are really powerful for somebody with bronchitis. But that again is knowing your chemistry. So you have to be careful with essentials that are high in eucalyptol or oxide. It can also be a skin irritant as well. Right, so now what we look at is looking at that. I've put a little thing here where in place of this, I have done this. And you should be able to see it on your screen right now. So, essential oils are like, I'd say like people. That's why I chose people here. So we all have some aspect, or we all practice some aspect of this in our life. Some people are very beautiful, and they love to dress, and they love to wear perfume, and they are just like that. There's other people who are very uplifting, happy-go-lucky, and then you've got people who work out. You've got the Mrs. Esther, and the ideal, of course, is that we want to have all these aspects in our personalities, in our body, because then it makes us a complete person. And so I've done here a figure, and you can see it now up on your screen. So you have someone who has all these attributes, the positive attributes to it. You don't want the negative ones. For someone who's developed all the positive side, and you get the wise woman. So it's the same with essential oils. So what we're trying to get is a blend of essential oils that will work completely as a whole to help the body heal, to balance the body up, whatever that person may need. So this is where we get into finding out how we can do this. So I'm going through chemotypes here. I'm not going to discuss that today. So through the chart that we have just looked at, we're going to push that in. So I've done a very in your notes, I've done a very simple chart here, which has it broken down very easily, like linalool 40%, pinene 12%, nerol acetate 7%, and so on and so forth. There's always trace elements unknown because we still haven't figured out exactly every single element. For example, a chemist can break apart an apple and analyze it, but they can never make an apple back together again because there's always unknown elements that make that apple. And it's the same with an essential oil. So you can make synthetic essential oils like in synthetic perfumes, but they are never going to be exactly the same as an essential oil produced by nature that has all the different chemicals in as a whole. So there's a lot we still do not know about that is in that essential oil. So what we do, we take our little graph, we can take both of these graphs here, and in this particular project that I've just done, I put them down, I've added up all my esters, my aldehydes, my ketones, etc. There's no ketones in this one, there's no oxides in this one. And then what we can then do is determine what this pretend essential oil will do. So first of all, we have to look at where this essential oil is from, which part of the plant. So this particular essential oil is from a flower. Now, we also know from our botanical classification studies that essential oils have different effects upon the body depending on which they are extracted from. So for example, eucalyptol, which is eucalyptus, it comes from the leaves of a tree. So it helps us with our respiratory problems. Flowers, if someone gives you flowers, how does that make you feel? It helps our emotions. So anything with a flower is helpful for our emotions. So this particular essential is going to be helping our emotions. So this chemical composition is very high in alcohols, and 40% of it is linalool, which is relaxing. So it is uplifting. You can see here is 26% terpenes. It is an uplifting oil. And we can see here it's got some esters in it. It also has some aldehydes, so it's strongly smelling of nerol, which obviously nerol is from neroli. So it's got the smell of the neroli flower a little bit. So it smells like a neroli because it's got aldehydes in it. And it's, of course, now terpenes and aldehydes are a little bit aggressive on the skin. But because we have the esters in, and you don't need much esters, the esters quench the irritating factor. So here you have an oil. The conclusion would be this oil is relaxing and balancing to the emotional system, safe to use, has a pleasant aroma, and has all the positive effects of terpenes and alcohols on the body. So the irritating properties of the aldehydes and terpenes are quenched by the ester. So from that, we deduced what that particular essential oil it does. And that's how you can do it with all these. Even though you might get them very complicated, you can still see, okay, there's 1.5% of this, 0.4% of this, and you add them up. And then from there you can go, okay, that's what that makes. I've done this with perfume making. I have got a perfume chart and analyze what I can, and then I can see actually from the sound of them, like nerol, obviously is neroli. Citral is probably lemongrass or from the citrus family. So I get an idea what these essentials might be, and I can make a very interesting perfume copy using essentials, using this chemical, using this formula basically. So you can see essential oils work like the people. You can develop different properties. So you can be calm, develop calmness and patience, make sure you exercise, keep your immune system strong, be uplifting, look after yourself, and also be aware of what you put in your body, as in phenols, for example. So I'm saying that you could even be aware of your nutrition. And this makes for have some time in nature, and this makes for a complete completeness, a whole person, a balanced person to make you shaman. So I'm going to leave you with, at the end of this podcast, with the picture of the shaman. So I do hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you have more of an understanding of what chemistry is and what essential oils contain and how they work. And if you have any questions, you of course just ask me, no problem. And I look forward to speaking to you again. Have a great day wherever you are, maybe. Bye for now.